do that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Never truer words spoken by former President Ronald Reagan. I think he spoke those words before he was actually president and knew what the hell was going on. Does any of us know what the hell's going on? I ask you. There is some crazy crap going down in the world. Most of it seems to be emanating from America, but looks can be deceiving. There's a shitload going out of Europe. And Australia, too, seems to be vying for its place in how stupid can we be? And, of course, being led by Clown 1, Anthony Albanese, who is being ably supported, although appearing in opposition, by Clown number 2, which would be Mr. Dutton. I don't know, folks. We're going to talk a lot more about those two clowns, I'm sure, in coming weeks. But one of the lead clown's supporting acts, Clown Penny Wong, was in Box Hill the other night. And she was part of a meeting being held in the Box Hill area by the Labor Party for all Box Hill residents. At least that was what it was appearing to be. This bloody thing is locking up again. I may just have to pop out and come back in. Give me a minute. We'll do that. All right, let's have another go. Usually likes it when I get out and get back in again. Vince and I are working on this problem. It appears to be a Google problem, not something that we're doing. So anyway, we shall play on regardless. I forgot where I was up to. Do you remember where I was up to? Private meeting. Oh, the China private meeting. Yeah, that's right. Round-eyed Australians and Box Hill residents were not allowed to attend. In fact, anybody who'd registered and bought a ticket online who turned up and looked vaguely like me couldn't turn up. Well, you could turn up, you just weren't allowed in. And there is a bloke who looks vaguely like me. He's, got a much better beard, if I say so myself. But he turned up and he had a ticket and he wasn't allowed in. Hello, Darren Bergwerf.
G'day, Carl. How are you, mate?
I'm all right. I see you are wearing the good colours tonight, mate. The Cali. That's the
Cali. Yeah, got the Cali on. Yep.
G'day to all the boys and girls in Cali.
Box Hill.
I'm looking forward to seeing a few people in the Cali shortly. So I'm not going to tell you when, but I'm coming back to Singleton. So I haven't even told them yet. So, but yes, we're on the way down. So it'd be good to catch up with everybody down there at the Cali. So you made the trip from your abode to Box Hill and I guess got to the front door expecting to get a seat. What happened when you arrived?
Well, I didn't actually book a ticket, but a lot of other people had tickets, and I actually got one off somebody else to see if we could kind of get in. And this is a try booking, but when you got to the front desk, and they must have had about, I don't know, at least 6 or 8 quite senior Masons dressed in blue uniforms with the upside down star on their shoulder, basically making sure that nobody kind of got in, but. There was a heap of people that booked on try booking. So for them to say that it was a private event and only by invite, yet it was out there publicly and you could get tickets and a barcode off try booking, didn't quite stack up. So everyone, and it wasn't just the people that were in our crew. There was some A1 people there. There was quite a few different groups there. Not massive numbers, but nobody was allowed in, and there's quite a few disgruntled. I guess normies, if you want to call them that had come along just to see what it was all about, that were in that electorate that weren't allowed in either.
I know you had another event you had to go to. Craig Cole spent some time there too at the event. He wasn't also able to get in. I don't know if he hung around long enough to see Penny Wong, comrade Penny Wong, scarpering out the back door like a rat and refusing to answer questions. Do you know more about that?
No, I left a bit early. I had to get down to Bayside. We had Steve from Pack's team, his ex-copper,
Yep.
of 27 years who left the force in 2021. He's got a crew. He was there doing a talk at My Place Bayside. It was a really good turnout. There had about 85 people there. But so I left at about 6 o'clock. 6:30 and headed off. So I wasn't there at the end when they were around the back of the building when Penny, scuttled out the back and into her waiting car.
Mainstream media in Victoria covering the issue still, or at least the blowback from the event?
To be honest, mate, I would not have a clue because I have not watched any mainstream media for about 3 or 4 years. So what's going on mainstream media? The only time I see mainstream media is when I come across clips on TikTok or somewhere regarding ex-police and ex-politicians being arrested and charged with despicable crimes against children and getting state funerals and all that kind of stuff. So when there's mainstream media around those sickos that run our country and our law enforcement, prison sentences, and it's on Channel 9 or on a mainstream TV, I share them all over the place.
A lot of people obviously very disgruntled about it. I don't know that they can do anything about it. Obviously, the event's passed now. The Labor Party are open and brazen in their attempts to sway certain sections of the community, and I'll use the examples of the citizenship ceremonies recently presided over by Tony the Burke in his electorates, or Western Sydney electorates at any rate. More like Labor Party fundraising events or campaign events than actual citizenship ceremonies. I mean, I know that people like us are pretty aware and awake. Do you think that the normies are starting to open their eyes at all to this?
Some are. I was at a bank today and spoke to a mother and daughter, and they were all over, the bank and the fact that the money's not yours once you put it into the bank. They couldn't get any money out of the ATM.
Now that's interesting because I had the same problem. Well, I had a problem this morning. I went to pay for something with a card and get some cash out, and it just declined the whole transaction. And it wasn't a large amount of money by any stretch of the imagination, and I knew I had it in there. So I transferred that small amount of money out of one account and put it into another account that had nothing in it with a different bank, and tried to do the same thing, and exactly the same thing occurred. The whole thing was declined. I took away, don't give me the $50, and it went through. Almost like I didn't have the money in the bank, but I did have I had $72 in the bank. So I did have 50 in there, and I eventually had to go to the bank teller machine to get it, which was fine. It was easy, but I thought it weird that all the FPOS this morning was down.
Yeah, well, it must have still been down this afternoon, but it was certainly down at Frankston at the shopping centre where I was to deposit some money in. So, just back on the Penny Wong story and they're not the Labor Party. They haven't been a Labor Party for a long time, probably ever.
No.
But the Australian Communist Party, led by the dishonourable Anthony Albanese, I went to a market out in Beaconsfield probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they had a sitting member there for the Labor Party, and the marquee he had up was I can't even remember the colour of the marquee, but everything on the table, all his paraphernalia and literature and flyers, little booklets were all green. And I just thought he was a green candidate, and I was talking to his offsiders. He was off getting a coffee, and he came back, and we started having a discussion. And I took a couple of those booklets, and it was basically it was like they were part of the trying to get all the Afghanis in and showing people how Labor can help them get their citizenship and get into Australia. So it seems to be the left around the world are very much on bringing in voters by the boatload and fast tracking their citizenship so that that they've got can hang on to power, I guess, in some way what they believe legitimately. But obviously there is no legitimate elections in this country whatsoever. No. They have no authority to be holding one. They have no authority to be sitting in office in any shape or form in either state, local or federal parliaments or governments. And, I'm very much on board with the whole boycotting the ballot and people not voting whatsoever, and not just not voting, but someone said the other night, if you turn up and get your name crossed off, at least you won't get fined. But if you do that, you're actually then you are giving them the opportunity to use that number as a vote. They cannot, if you don't get your name crossed off, fashion an extra vote from that. But they can if you do get your name crossed off. So I would suggest if you're going down that line of thinking that you do not turn up and get your name crossed off, you just boycott totally any voting in this federal election whatsoever, and show your disdain, disgust, and contempt for the fraud that it is.
I tend to agree with you 100%. It is an absolute fraud. I understand how many people are in a logic lock with it, and they feel that, well, we keep chasing that rabbit. We're chasing the rabbit that supposedly is going to bring us our freedom, and there are a few parties now poking their heads up, courting the freedom vote, if you like. Gerard Rennick and his party, People First. And I've got to admit, I'll play something for you. I don't know if you've seen this or not.
Rennick's really, I've watched a bit of his stuff lately. He's really, I think, getting it now. He's talking a lot more. He's all over the gold issue. He's actually starting to come forward as someone that's looks a lot more legitimate than I thought any of them were.
Here's a TikTok that he put out today, and I've got to say, I'm pretty impressed.
I actually think, and I'll say this publicly, that our federal bureaucracy is the most criminal, corrupt organisation in Australia. In terms of, look, I mean, it's, I've seen it with the RBA and our gold bars in London. I've seen it with the Bureau of Meteorology when they tampered with weather records from the past, to get their point across. Net zero, 40 different climate models to calculate net zero. I mean, that's going to be open to so much potential abuse there. So it goes on and on. The Auditor General, that should be an independent auditor, must be completely spotless, right? Ex-Labor staffer, back in the 80s. We've got a big problem down there. And coming back to, my background's in accounting, grew up on the farm, mum's a nurse, dad's a farmer. But it is all about reconciling things and making numbers add up. And when I look at the quality assurance in the Canberra bureaucracy, it's just not there. And if things don't add up, they don't care. They just get away with it, lie their way around it.
Ain't that the bloody truth, the bastards? So he's stepping up and slapping him in the face, all right. My question is, are there enough people running as candidates that are of the same feeling as Gerard Rennick? There's probably enough people who feel like that, but are they willing to stand up and run in their local seat? There's no point in electing Gerard Rennick back by himself unless he has some sort of power. I was interested to hear that, he's an accountant by trade. It probably explains his sense of humour. But it might also explain why he's pretty good with the numbers. And based on the fact, if you haven't watched any of it, he has a YouTube channel where he puts up a lot of his questions that are asked of the bureaucracy during estimates. And I tend to watch all of them. They're pretty bloody good. He's right on the money with what he's chasing, and especially, as you say, Darren, the Australian gold in the Bank of England vault, which may or may not be in the Bank of England vault. It may actually now be in the Fed vault in New York before they go opening the doors at Fort Knox and taking a peek.
Oh, look, as we know, the whole thing's just we are in the biggest Truman Show, Hunger Games, movie that. And it's so funny that so many people are getting worked up with all of this stuff, and I just laugh at it, to be honest. And it's not just about. He's calling out the most criminal kind of government we've ever had, or whatever. In my opinion, and my educated opinion now, which I didn't have, 3 years ago in 2022 when I ran in the federal election and the state election. So I've moved, a fair way from that position. But my educated opinion now, it's not just about a government. It's pretty much, in my opinion, it's the TGA, it's ASIC, it's the ACCC, it's the banking industry, it's every form of government, it's the
judiciary.
courts, it's the judiciary, and the lawyers, the Bar Association. As far as I'm concerned, and my educated opinion, and it is an opinion, but the research that I'm doing for my court cases in the Supreme Court at the moment would strongly believe that it is a organised crime syndicate that are racketeering and enforcing usury and slavery, crimes against humanity, and mass genocide against the Australian people. And any funding that we're still going towards them under the Roman Statute as well, that's going to fight foreign wars or going to Ukraine or anywhere else in the world, then we can actually be prosecuted for those crimes if we are funding a government or any corporation that's funding the government or the tax office. And that's where my stance has been, as much as humanly possible. Of course, we can't get out of it with fuel excise and GST on what we've got to buy. But certainly, wherever possible, we should not be funding a criminal organisation like this that is colluding and racketeering.
There's all these talks of Trump tariffs on Australia, and oh God, it's not what you do to mates, and this, that, and the other thing. I saw a reply from one of the US industry secretaries or something like that basically said, "Hey, listen, we gave Australia all the benefits of no tariffs when we did this last time, and what happened? Australia breached the agreement and bit the hand that fed it, so to speak. Now, what do you want us to do?" Now, it happens that when the agreement was made, it was made under a Liberal government. When it was breached under a Labor government. Now, they're trying to unbreach it with the same Labor government. Is it any wonder that nobody's answering Albo's calls when he tries to get to the White House?
Australia has no standing on the world stage, mate. We're a laughingstock. We really are. And but look, as we know, it's all a movie. There is massive amount of stuff going on. And look, I'm a little bit more heartened, I guess, with the stuff that is going on. And I know there's plenty of doomsdayers and naysayers about what's going on. And I see Canada today basically cut off oil supplies to America, and it's kind of stunned them a little bit. They've kicked back pretty hard. But to me, this is the whole, there's all this talk about the 51st state and us being the 53rd state, and it's all garbage as far as I'm concerned. Now, the way I see it, in my opinion, only once again, is that, he's forcing countries to get their backs so rolled up that they're going to be taken over by the US, that they actually, pull their finger out of their ass and get down to business about and grow up and learn how to stand on their own 2 feet. And this is going on all through Africa at the moment. There's some African countries that are absolutely smashing it out of the park. They're expelling all of the French businesses and French troops. There's a couple. Ghana's one, and the other one just next door to Ghana has got a 34-year-old military president that has done so much. He's another Gaddafi. It looks like Gaddafi's son is going to potentially be president of Libya at the upcoming election as well. So Africa are actually knocking it out of the park at the moment. And,
they're going to reclaim their land. That closing down US bases, that's a big deal.
That's huge.
A very, very big deal, because the US have used Africa as a training ground, and there are a lot of guns for hire working in Africa as well. A lot of Australians working in that area, either as personal security or company security. There's a lot of mining interests around. There's all sorts of interests around through Africa. And it has been sectioned for, well, obviously all of our lives and more. And travel has been somewhat restricted, and they've been able to engineer, and when I say they, I mean the West, have been able to engineer a warring mentality between the different nations of Africa. So to have a leader in Africa who is throwing open the borders, so to speak, and welcoming all of Africa back in and encouraging other leaders to do the same, to not let Western influences drag out their natural resources, diamonds, brown coal, and other things. They have some rare earth metals, I think. But Africa's biggest resource is its people. And they have been abused and used for centuries. And hopefully this guy in Ghana is going to, be the snowball that starts to roll and gather momentum.
Well, you've got that other guy as well, Ibrahim Traore, who's the president of Burkina Faso, which borders. It's the next country back from Ghana, so they've got a border together, and he's basically built a heap of housing. He's put his whole country to work. He's bought 400 tractors and a heap of equipment. They're farming. They've planted thousands of acres of wheat and rice. They've got their own forging building now for the gold. So they're making their own gold. They've got their own bank. And once again, he's happy that the US AID has been withdrawn. And this is a challenge for African countries to get their shit together and realise that we don't need anyone's help. They've got everything there that they need, the same as Australia has. Problem is that we are probably one of the worst countries in the world when it comes to control and being one of the Five Eyes. And this country was built by bloody Masonic filth. And look, I'm not saying that they were all Masonic filth back then and at what level they were. And I don't really comprehend how all of them are. I don't know, so I can't really comment. But certainly, this whole country was built and the systems in this country are revolving around the Masons.
Yeah. Yep, certainly is. And
just by the way, I'm still not one. I still haven't joined. So just to throw that one in there for anyone that still believes the bullshit from 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I'll hold my hand up. I haven't been asked to join either. In fact, exactly the opposite is the message I've got.
Actually, it was funny because at the Chinese town hall the other night in Box Hill, which is what they had on the flyer, Chinese town hall, at the Box Hill town hall, across diagonally, a little bit diagonally across one side was a 3-story Masonic lodge, and almost next to that, on a bit of a triangle the other way, I think there may have been one building in between, was the police station. So,
wow.
And it was like, holy shit, we're right in the middle of the triangle.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but they are everywhere. And and look, I know Freemasons. Some of them are really nice guys, and I have a hope in my heart that they actually don't know what they're part of. They're just low level, trying to work their way into what they think is a networking opportunity for business. I would hope, should any of them see this, they might come and ask why I'd be so worried for them. But I don't think that is the case. My experience has been with these people that they are hunted for a reason to join the Masons, and that's because they don't delve too deeply until they're told to. And, they supposedly can keep a secret, although certainly some of the ones close to me have no idea how to keep the Masonic secret. That leads me to understand, or to wonder at one stage, whether or not these new breed of Freemasons that are being sucked in. And I mean, you've done a lot of driving in regional areas of Victoria and South Australia and New South Wales. It's not uncommon to see signs up on the side of town saying, hey, listen, the Freemasons need you. Come to our next meeting on whatever night at this time and see what it's all about. So they're actively out there recruiting at the moment. And it's unfortunate, but the regional areas where they appear to be pretty strong as well. They have
every big country town you drive into, whether it was Mildura or Swan Hill when I was up that way, or Ballarat, Bendigo, and especially the gold towns. They're everywhere. Yeah,
100%. So keep your eye open for them, folks. They are everywhere, and they will try and subvert whatever it is. If you're working for good, they will work against it, and they will think they're doing it for the right reasons, but in the reality of it all, they're probably working a scheme. So, it is what it is.
When you get people like this guy in Africa that's working for $1,000 a month wage, he just drives around in a Land Cruiser and not a whole, and a lot of the leaders in Africa have taken billions and billions, let their people starve, and they're living life high on the hog. So, And then you've got Trump and Musk that are pretty much working for free. I don't believe they're taking a wage. They're there to do a job. So, there's a lot of heart in what's going on at the moment. And while all of us, I guess, got a bit disillusioned with and frustrated and impatient with the whole plan. I always had this idea in the back of my mind that something was going on, but it's not a matter of if, when, or what. We've still got our role to play, but I think people should be heartened to see that, in my opinion, again, that the fact that there's so much public knowledge, mainstream media, and how hard they're going at the low-level shit kickers, the politicians and judges and courts and that at the moment would indicate to me that they're pretty confident that they've cleaned out every opportunity that the filth would have of causing major catastrophes. So they've obviously de-weaponized them. They've obviously cleaned out all the up echelons, and now we're seeing the public takedown. To me, that paints a pretty strong picture that things are fair income. They're still quite slow in this country, and I know the frustration in Australia that we're not seeing anything. We're still being harvested. We're still fighting tooth and nail to keep our houses and fighting against the banks and councils and whatever else. But it is what it is. We've got to just keep going, and I'm hopeful that this year, all those fair weather golfers or fair weather freedom fighters might get some heart, and we might start to build a bit of momentum like we had back in 2022 when people actually see it. It might get them back on the gravy train to ride this victory home, and that's my belief that we could see that happen this year, that all these people come flooding back into the movement to take it home.
Yep. Well, there's certainly enough evidence stacking up if we were to compare what we thought was going to happen in 22 to what it is happening now in 25 and everything in between. I think we'd come out on the positive side of our predictions, if you like. So I would hope that if they were put up side by side, and I can probably go back through and do that, we might be able to show a few more normies that there's no point in just playing it here on the Voice of Freedom. It's actually got to get to venues where the normies sit. Should we really start to be thinking about, and wash my mouth out with soap, should we really start to be thinking about mainstream, say, TV or radio advertising that draws people to a website that can provide more information?
Potentially. Look, they are finding it. At Bayside Wednesday night, like I said, there was about 85 people there. A lot of new faces that I hadn't recognised. I mean, I hadn't been there for a few months, but and even out after the KC council meeting a month ago, Greenie out there at my place, Berwick, with Joe, have organised a meeting specifically around every Thursday night. They've got he had 20 odd new people turned up last Thursday night to just talk about all the issues with their local council. So he's feeding them a bit deeper information than just about their cars, having to have a permit for their cars, or the local tip transfer station. So there are more people coming looking for answers. There really are. So and I said to him, he's hoping that next week when they have their next meeting, he's asked all of them to bring back at least one, if not two, with each one of them. So he's hoping to have maybe 50 there at the My Place meeting next Thursday night at Berwick. So I think, we've got to get new people. We've got to start to feed these new people into a little bit deeper comprehension of what's going on.
Look, all we can do is say all we can say is we can offer a bit of a pillow. Because when the slap comes, it's going to be big. We're all going to feel it. Some of us more than others. The more unawake are going to be hit the hardest. And all we're trying to do is offer the opportunity for those who, and it really doesn't matter whether or not you believe or believe as strongly as we do. What's the problem with being prepared? Hear us out. You might get some knowledge that should all of a sudden the bank's closed, you can't get any money, the world's shitting itself, and some of the stuff that we've been saying comes true, all of a sudden you're going to want to know more. So be prepared. You're going to wish you listened. So nobody suggests you have to believe. We are not drumming these things into you. This is one of the great lessons in this life that our souls are here to learn. We have to discern and make our own decisions. What community, I believe, Darren, and humanity at large has been brainwashed to believe is that we don't have to consider the consequences of those actions.
Well, these people in power believe that they're protected and they've got some kind of amnesty, and I know for a fact that they're not going to have that. But I red-pilled the coffee lady at our market last month, pretty heavy, and she's been in the medical industry all her life. I didn't realise she was friends with Brett Sutton when I told her he's going to swing for what he did and the terrorism, and she said, "Oh, he's a good man and he's this and he's that." But when I started giving her all the information, and she was really listening and soaking it all up, and when she left, I kind of smoothed it over to a point and said, "Look, I'm not trying to scare you. Believe what you want to, but at least it's in your subconscious. You really need to open your mind up to the possibility of at least half what I'm telling you is real." But she was still of the thought that we put people at danger by not getting vaccinated back in 2021. Even at this time. So she's a nurse, or had been a nurse. She's got herself a coffee van now. But like I said, I kind of hammered home some pretty heavy points. And when she walked off to have a smoke and I walked off with her, she said, "Look, it's enough to make you, if what you're saying is true, it's enough to make you want to do your risks." And I said, "Yeah, that's what we're trying to avoid, and we're trying to help people start to process the idea that this may be true, so that you can start to think about it." And so when all the intel does come, and it's going to come thick and fast this year, you're not going to feel that way. You're going to already have started to process the concept that your whole life's been a fucking lie.
A little bit of unbrainwashing begins a process. Yep. So you don't need to have your hand held. You don't always need to be told. Once a little bit of unbrainwashing has been done and your eyes have been opened, then you will start finding the truths for yourself. And you will know in here, in your heart, in your soul, whether or not this is true or not. That's how I feel about it, at any rate. Just my opinion. As Darren likes to say tonight, and that's a good thing. It is only opinion that we are talking. It's nice to sit around. We just haven't got a beer. We should have a beer. It's Friday night.
Well, I'm learning this language a lot more because of all the work I'm, putting together around affidavits and rebuttals of, writs and claims in the Supreme Court. That, if you don't put that language in it and be asking questions, then you're making a claim. You've got to prove it. The CBA have made several claims in their statement of claim, obviously. I've got some very, very heavy rebuttals on nearly all of their claims. So that's coming up next month too in the Victorian Supreme Court.
All right, all power to you for that.
Yeah, well, it's only a directions hearing. And to be honest, the only reason that it's got that far, and I might be cutting it off at its knees, hopefully, yet, because the writ has never been served, and I've already let the court know that the only reason that I've put in a notice of appearance and a notice of defence is through the fear of the court making a summary judgment and the bank coming and stealing my home and selling it. Right. I've felt compelled and extorted, threatened into having to do this process because I was made aware of the writ via an email from Gaydon's lawyers. But there's some few things around the writ that are fraud, and so I'll be basically trying to get that dismissed to start with, and they can start again, and get myself a few more months up my sleeve to put my case together.
Yep. All right. Well, best of luck, and we know a few people who can help out. In fact, you probably introduced me to most of them. So,
look, I'm spending a lot of time. That's where I was out at Bacchus Marsh on Wednesday for 6 hours in a meeting surrounding that. I've had some information come through to me today from Doris, who she's got some really good stuff as well. She's still fighting her cause. They haven't sold her property, and it's been 5 months since they stole that off her and pretty much dragged them out of their house. Doris and Michael. So that alone, and she's got an estoppel or an injunction in the High Court, but that alone says that they're concerned that they might have fucked up. And there's some really solid information out now around the banks. What she sent me today is absolute gold. I got some good gold nuggets out for my court case, and a strategy on Wednesday as well. And then we've just seen in the High Court the government's or the Commonwealth's appeal against the mine up in the Northern Arnhem Land got overturned. So their claim now, I think 700 or 800 million, is going to go forward. They've already been decided that they're due something. It's just a matter of how much now. So that was a massive win for. Yep.
That is. In fact, there's been a few wins and, well, I suppose wins and or losses in the courts recently with various. I'm just going to see if I loaded any of them up. I had one that I was going to pull up and talk about, but I don't know if I got that far. And it doesn't look like I did. But there's been, I want to say in South Australia, a number of the neo-Nazis that were arrested around the War Memorial over there have been, I think it was in January, been facing charges. And they have been brought before the court. They were bailed and now are facing court. I think the first or maybe second of the cases to go to court today was dismissed because the prosecutor asked for it to be dismissed. They dropped all charges and paid the legal fees of the gentleman concerned. That was on the back of another case that they'd done same charges, done the same thing to a few days beforehand. And I believe there are 14 to 16 other people who are waiting with similar charges against them. The South Australian Prosecutions Department seems to be having a rethink on how they're charging people for these crimes that are being committed.
Oh, that's quite good, because that's an admission of guilt, which means a countersuit coming back the other way. They've already admitted that they were guilty. The fact that they've paid their fees, and I talked to people around this as well, that the guy that sued, I think the bank, the ANZ Bank, were trying to sue this fella, and he won, and he got a settlement in the many millions, and they had to pay up, and it went into an account, and he didn't touch it, and he just left it there, because the minute you spend 1 cent of that, you've accepted that as settlement. So he just sat on it, left it there, and then he countersued for the same amount and won that as well.
Shit,
so, wow. So there's so much. You're not really seeing it, but there is a lot of people in this country doing some amazing work, and really fighting a good fight. And it's not a political fight. It's not going to rallies. This is in the trenches. This is the real fight. This is actually, taking on the system and educating themselves to take on the system. And that's, to me, and I've been saying this for a couple of years, this is what we need to be doing, not going to Canberra or walk on the streets. We need to be educating ourselves. That's where the empowerment and the knowledge comes from. And, so many people, I believe, have left a lot of freedom groups, but I think they are actually sourcing information and knowledge on how to protect themselves and take on the councils, take on that parking ticket, whatever level they're doing it. So that's a really positive thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree, and I see a lot of that happening in Queensland as well. So we can only think that the movement is growing, and certainly there is a lot more interest, I know, in people wanting to learn about ways that they can fight injustice and corruption, and particularly injustice in fines that are levelled against them. There has been a great awakening to that recently. I don't know if the authorities have been going off and issuing more fines than normal, but we do know that they're running short of money, so they've got to try and ramp it up somewhere. And part of the brainwashing is if you get a fine, you must pay it.
And it's interesting. I only learnt this the other day, Wednesday. But when you look at the what's hanging over the Supreme Court in Melbourne, or the county court, it might be all of them, is the you got that statue with the scales and the sword, the Justice,
Lady Liberty or Justice,
Yep. Well, the sword is driven into the ground, which is basically a no mercy signal, and the scales are draped over a knee. So there is no, and the lawyers, when this is pointed out to the lawyers, and this is on a tarot card apparently as well. This symbol of the injustice. Symbol. Yep, and that's what's on the outside of the county court in Melbourne. The injustice system that is what we're stuck in, and those scales will be rebalanced, and that sword will be raised again, so that we do have a justice system in this country.
All power to it, and you, my friend. Go off and enjoy your weekend as best you can. I know you'll probably just have your face in the books all weekend, but maybe take Anna out for a drive and a counter lunch somewhere.
Oh, we did that last weekend, and went out for dinner and did a few trips last weekend. But no, this weekend I've got so much information I've got to put together before I head out to another meeting next Thursday. And like I said, I've only got 3 weeks thereabouts before I've got to be in the Supreme Court. So, I've got...
I want to get you and Marcel back for a chat too about the OPA. So,
I didn't even mention that. That's
when you're ready for that.
Yep. We're getting very close now, and things are being tested and trialed, and we should be good to go. And we're getting so much information or so many requests, and when's it coming? But this is what's been put together it's unreplicable anywhere in the world. No one's going to be able to do what this document is going to do. It is at a level that is extraordinary. And once again, everything that's inside of this PMA and the 10 or 11 kind of stages of the education to learn who we are it's an amazing piece of work, and I think people are going to be absolutely stoked when we get there. But it's not just I'll just give it a quick plug while we're here, because I find, and a lot of groups are dropping off. I know Commonwealth Custodians are pretty much wound up now. I know Harvey Bay Common Law, the rubber's hitting the road there, and people are starting to work out that stuff's not working. But this is not what we're building is not a self-preservation kind of thing with Our Place Australia. We have a way bigger purpose for what we're building, and the portfolios that we're building, and the restoration that comes with that, the restoration of equity, the restoration of law, LORE, and God's law, and the restoration of a proper curriculum. So we're going to restore common sense and restore everything in our world back to as much of a natural state that the Creator intended. So that's getting rid of pesticides, organic foods, preventative health care, all of the stuff that I know there's a lot of people out there that have already got the knowledge on this, but this is our purpose. The portfolios within Our Place Australia and are going to be very focused on about 6 or 7 major key areas to start with, and we'll build our teams around that. And we're going to build a model of a way forward, totally abstract to the Westminster system. We don't want people handing over their power to somebody else. What Trump's doing at the moment, he's basically forcing countries to be their own leader, to grow up and actually be self-sufficient on a lower level, on a local level. We're wanting every individual in this country to be their own union, their own king or queen, and do the same. And I spoke with my son today for an hour and a half driving down to Morwell. And this is what it's about, being responsible for yourself. Don't give your power. Don't expect other people to do it. If you want to learn something, you go and find the information. It's up to you. You've got to put the work in. And this is the mindset change that we've got to get. We're too lazy. We'd rather go off and have fun than actually learn what we need to learn. And if we continue with that mindset and we don't do the hard work, we're going to continue to be a slave. Yep,
100%. Have a great weekend, brother. Be safe. And
you too, mate. Thanks very much once again, and good. Have a great weekend to all your viewers too. Thanks, Carl.
Lovely. Cheers, mate. And I see Penny in the chat, Penny J, one of the coordinators for My Place Australia, saying that there are heaps of people joining at the moment, and they're launching a whole heap of learning modules at the moment too. Now, you'll get that through the Unity Hub, folks. If you don't know much about the Unity Hub, go to myplaceaustralia.org and check it all out. I think it'll cost you, I think it works out at $60 a year. So what's that make it? $5 a month? Coffee. a cup of coffee a month. And the level of information that's available to you free of charge in there, outside of your $5 donation for membership, is phenomenal and growing on a daily basis. Penny needs to be commended for everything that she's doing in the background, and her team. It's not just her too. So good on you, Pen. Doing a great job. Sunflower, I see you've popped in the room. Michelle Bradley Smith has joined one of the My Places. I forget now, Morwell, I think she said in the chat earlier. Good luck. Hope to see you there in the not too distant future. I might bring a few friends with me. Morwell's not too far from Melbourne. And Sunflower, I hope you and the family are recovering every day with the lung issue, the pleurisy. God, bloody awful thing. And thank you again for everything that you do to help me, help the Voice of Freedom, and keep me a little bit sane. I really appreciate it. Love you dearly, as I love you all. And that's why I want you all back here, maybe over the weekend. Ramona and I have been having a bit of a chat this week. She has been, as you would expect, a very busy lady. And I have been caught up with things like cyclones and, well, other stuff, which we'll get to talk about one day in the not too distant future, I hope. But Ramona and I are trying to get together maybe tomorrow, maybe Sunday, for another live where we are going to talk. A lot of people are very interested in the passage of right and what that means, what sort of paperwork has to be done. And there is a bit of learning to do. You're not going to learn it in this show. We're going to talk about it and give you an idea of what it actually is and how it works and what it's useful for. It may not be for you. It might be for you. If it is for you, I'm considering putting on a weekend seminar here. If you would like to be part of that, and at the end of that Saturday, Sunday, or we might make it a Friday evening barbecue get-together, hello, and then Saturday will be an intensive day of study, with Sunday morning being a recap and a signing of the documents and doing everything you need to do before heading off to wherever you need to go home. Now, if that's something you're interested in doing, Mona will be here to present that and to educate. Please reach out to me, carl@vofhq.com. It's only going to be small. We'll probably only take 10 to 15 people is about the maximum size we will take for this. It's not going to be a very expensive process, but there will be a cost to it. Of course, if you have your own accommodation, I reckon we might be able to figure something out. But if you are requiring motels and that sort of stuff, well, there will be that extra cost at your expense, obviously, because I've got no money. I'd put you up for nothing. If I had the money, I'd shout you a motel room. It's just what a kind of fellow I am. Anyway, over the weekend, hopefully Mona will be in to have a bit of a chat. We'll see if she's recovered enough after her very, very big week. And if it's not tomorrow, it will be Sunday. And God knows what else is going to happen in the world in the next 24, 36 hours. So there is every likelihood I'll be back to chat with you again. Be safe on the roads. The dickheads are out there. I dodged one today.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!